Guns of Icarus is an older game now, having released in 2012. In it, you either play as a pilot, engineer, or gunner, and help run an airship in arena-based battles of up to 4 ships versus 4 ships in PvP, or 4 ships versus endless-ish ships in PvE. With 74 hours into the game, I think it's safe to say I've played a lot of it over the years. Not as much as some others, but more than most. I never really thought of reviewing it until I tried it again recently and figured out that a lot has really changed with the state of it. So much has changed, in fact, that there's some things I feel you need to know before considering buying this game. For the purposes of this review, I will be reviewing Guns of Icarus Online and Alliance, the PvE expansion to Online, together. The former will be referred to as PvP and the latter as PvE. And there's a big reason for this that we will get to later. So gameplay wise, you'll be limited to one role mainly for the entirety of one match. As a pilot, you'll get to steer the ship, use abilities to do anything from speeding the ship up, leaving toxic gas in your wake, or a number of other things really. You'll likely also be in the captain role and get to give orders to either your AI crewmates or player partners who hopefully will listen to you. Occasionally, you might go to repair something as well and leave no one at the helm, as you can carry 1 tool for every role you are not and 3 for your selected role, which allows some capability for crossover and strategizing. As a gunner, you'll mainly be working on the guns, obviously. You can load your guns with specific ammunition with various effects from incendiary to heat sink and even explosive. Of course, you might have to do some repairing of your own gun as well, or maybe even of the ship if things get so dire. As an engineer, you will be running around frantically trying to repair things as they blow up, get set on fire, or get shot up. You'll be able to repair things faster, rebuild things faster, or put out fires or buff guns or even auto-repair things with your many tools. Sometimes you'll also be asked to do some gunning when there's nothing to really repair. All of these classes balance each other out really well, since not one class can quite completely do the role of another. They also even have special abilities they can use separate from the tools that you can bring in. Engineers can sprint, gunners can reload their guns faster, and the captains can move the ship faster and more maneuverably, all for a limited amount of time. All in all, the gameplay base here is really solid, and it makes for a really enjoyable experience already by itself. The graphics are charming and unique, but certainly not revolutionary or even really good for that matter, even back in 2012 when the game was released. There's not really any heavy level of production to this game. It received just enough production to not be void or ridiculous, but most attention really went off to the gameplay. There aren't many issues really, some multi-monitor issues depending on your exact setup, but that's not necessarily the game's fault as far as I know. For example, my friend didn't have any issues with that, but I did. However, we use much different monitors, and he runs AMD whereas I run Nvidia, and AMD is admittedly much better with multi-monitor frameworks. You can fully customize your ships with color designs and ornaments and set up exactly what guns you want on it. Your only real limitations in that regard are the things available and the weapon slots you have on every ship. Ships all have different stats, some are better than others in different situations and excel at doing specific things sometimes. There's entire metas on how to play certain types of ships, although I learned the hard way that things that work in PvP aren't necessarily going to work in PvE. The AI in both PvE and PvP are pretty incompetent, they're not very smart, and a nightmare if you're trying to solo run a ship, and just are dumb and do things wrong and play about as bad as a brand new player would. Meaning you shouldn't really get this unless you plan on playing with other people, and I'll mention more on that later. You can't really put AI run ships into PvP matches, nor can you have an AI pilot a ship when a player is present, or just in a PvP match in general. They can only do that in PvE for some reason. The game itself gets a 7 out of 10 from me here. It's very fun, solid base. There's some small issues with the game itself, but just small things. For what this game tried to be, it certainly nailed it. right on the head, although admittedly it's not actually that much, so it's nothing that deserves anything higher than an 8, no matter how well it does it. But this isn't the end of this review. The most important point has yet to be made, and it's pretty negative, and basically why I bumped a point off the score I wanted to give it, even though it doesn't necessarily relate to how they designed the game. Now this is where things are going to split up between online and alliance, because this game is marketed very strangely and impractically, and I can only recommend buying one of these two. Well, to start, online is the PvP only edition of the game. It's just the original game and you can pick it up for a mere $5, and that sounds like a great deal, right? Well, just wait. Alliance is the PvE expansion of the game. However, when you buy it, you're getting and paying for both the expansion and the base game. It's $15, meaning the price of the expansion is twice that of the original game. Now that's a bit odd, don't you think? Well, not so much. You see, Guns of Icarus had a very strong launch. YouTubers were advertising it everywhere. There was good marketing, good emails sent out, and just solid work all around. It sold many copies, and even successfully kickstarted an adventure mode later on, which turned into Alliance. Which, by the way, is not even close to what adventure mode was supposed to be, but they didn't really receive any flack over it at all. The huge issue here is that Guns of Icarus, after a while, had a very hard problem maintaining its player base. At its peak, there were nearly 5,000 people playing every day. This isn't a game where you only really need 8 people in one match for an optimal experience, so these numbers are pretty good. After a while, that number descended into only a few hundred every day, and the daily peak was around 400, still enjoyable, but harder to find a match given differences in skill level and all. Recently, it's gotten even worse. After the launch of PvE, I think the developers just gave up trying to maintain a healthy PvP player base or something, because now only a max of 50 to 60 people even log in to play every day, and that's only at the peak. The peak is about 40 to 50, and during the night, it will plummet down to 10 people playing at once. And keep in mind, this is spread out among both the PvP and PvP. 10 people playing. A bare minimum PvP match without relying on AI needs 8 players. A full one needs 32. That's more people than you'll even normally find online at this point. Because of this, the PvP is virtually non-existent. You can't find a match, and even if you can, it's small, uninhabited, and filled with AI. The PvE fixes this a bit though, because then you and a group of 4 friends, or 4 of the other 10 people playing the game, can also get together and take on endless hordes of AI. Technically, you can have up to 4 ships of 4, so 16 people fighting AI in several game modes, but at this point you're lucky if you even sign on to see that many people playing online or in PvE in general. So when it comes down to if I can recommend Guns of Icarus, this game that I adore and that I have dozens of hours of amazing memories on and dozens of more screenshots saved to Steam for, it's a yes and a no. If you're looking at Guns of Icarus online, it's a solid no. That's just the PvP. You will waste a lot of time there finding a match in a non-existent community. You're paying $5 to not find any matches. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. When it comes to Guns of Icarus Alliance, then I'm gonna have to say yes and recommend it. Especially if you can rope in some friends, preferably 3 others, into playing with you. But do note that you'll be supporting a company that is simply just not trying anymore, and that is really just trying to milk what they know is the last leg of their game by charging 3 times more than the dead PvP mode by itself, which they're still selling even though you can't find a match in it to begin with. That's pretty shady and stupid and fucked up, and I really hate that they're doing it. I love this game, but the team behind it today, it really sucks. Don't buy this if you want to support them. Only buy Alliance if you just want a fun game to play cooperatively against AI. PvP is dead, and it's never coming back. Remember, 50 player peaks, and it's only getting worse from here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this review helped you out. If you want to see more just like it, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and check out my Res Reviews playlist. Thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next Res Reviews.